Hey everybody, Sue's here from Revelation Quilts. Today is the tutorial for the second quilt that we are making out of our thrift store shirts. And look how great this looks. This is a great pattern. It's super easy. I started off with denim looking charm packs. So they're charm packs that look like denim, although they are not denim. You can definitely use denim if you have some old jeans or thrift store jeans or anything like that. You can definitely use them. That would give it an even more authentic look. But I chose not to do that because denim will make the quilt even heavier, and I didn't want it to be that heavy. But you're welcome to do that, and this is gonna make a great quilt. It's very easy to do, just have to pay attention, and let's get started. So I have all these strips left over from the tutorial I did with the striped men's shirts from the thrift store. But what goes better with a striped men's shirt than denim? So I found these charm packs. They're called Dry Brush Dark Denim from Wilmington. And we are going to use these to make our next quilt with all the fabric I have left over from the striped shirts I got at the thrift store. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to open this up and take a look at these. And they really do look just like denim. I love them. If they weren't just 100% cotton, I would think that they were denim. So we're going to take this charm pack, and I'm going to use since they're a dark color, I'm going to use a white pencil. And I am just going to take one and take my little baby ruler, and I'm going to mark 2 inches from the edge. And I'm just going to make a little white line right here on that side, and then the same corner I'm going to take my 2 inches from the edge and mark another little white line there. So I got a white mark here and a white mark here. Okay, and I don't know if you can see that, but I think maybe you can. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first strip, and I'm going to line that up so the edge of that strip is right on that chalk line. And the other side goes on the far corner. So it's going to look like that before you sew. So let's go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how these work. But the first thing so as you can see, I've got my white lines here in the corner. One's there and one there. They're 2 inches from the corner, and I'm just going to take my first strip and I'm going to line it up so that the strip is even with the mark here, and then I'm going to line the other part up right at the corner. So it almost looks like it's going down the middle of the strip, but not quite. So there's my mark there, my mark there. This one I'm lining up to that mark, and I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch down that line. So let me get that sewn. And I'm holding this side to make sure it stays at the corner. So that's what it's going to look like. And then I'm just going to set the seam and flip it over so that it goes to one side of the corner. So that's what that first seam is going to look like. Now I'm going to take my next strip, and I'm just going to pick one randomly. And I'm going to line the next strip up right along the edge of that line, and I don't have to start out as far because I only have a smaller portion to cover. And I'm just going to sew that one on. And I don't have to sew all the way down to the end of the strip because I only need to cover what is under that 5-inch square. So I'm going to iron that, flip it over, and just press that there. So now I've got 2 of the strips ironed on, and then I'm only going to need 1 more. So I'll pick another strip, and it's only going to need to cover this small triangle on the end. So I'm going to lay my strip down, and I only need to sew from here to here. And I can actually take my scissors and cut off the remaining part of that strip because I don't need it. I can cut off this strip, and I'm going to iron that down and fold it back. So I've got 1/2 of the block done, and that's what it looks like. From the back, it's going to look like this. You're going to have some strips laying across the outer edge of that original charm pack square. So now I'm going to go with the other side. I'm going to look at my marked chalk mark, and I'm going to pick another strip, and I'm going to place that starting on that mark down to the corner, right about there. There we go. So I almost made that mistake of going this way, but you want it to lay towards the center. That's the mistake you'll make. And once you get that down and figured out, you'll never make that mistake again. So I'm going to flip it over and start at the corner this time. Make a few stitches and then make sure that that is laying right on that line. I'm going to set my seam, and I'm going to flip this over so that the denim square now will form this V. You'll have this point. And I'm going to pick another one. I'm going to lay it right on that line, right along the edge of the last strip that we've sewn. I'm going to sew it down. I can cut off the excess of that strip because I don't need it. Set my seam, flip it over, and I only need 1 more to cover that little bit. Let's do this one. I'm going to put it about right there. I won't need this whole strip. I'll only need this much, enough to cover the charm square that's underneath. That little corner sticking out. I'm going to cut off the end of this because I don't need it, because I can use that for another one. Iron it down, flip it over. So that is what it's going to look like when it's done. So if you turn it over, you can see that you've got the original charm square, and then you've got all these pieces that are laying around on the outside. So this original charm square is actually going to be our template for cutting it. And everything is covered where it needs to be. But you've got this little triangle of the original denim charm square underneath. So let's get this cut and trimmed, and then we'll see what it looks like. So here we've got that piece we've just sewn, and it looks kind of weird and wonky right now. But if we flip it over, we can see we've got the original charm square with just some pieces that are laying around the outside. So I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to trim off that excess using the original charm square as my template. And so let's just square that up, making it look nice. And your original block is going to be skewed a little bit. And so the way to do it, the best way to do it, is to see your diagonal line on here and make that go from corner to corner on your original charm square. And so then you can trim. And flip it over. And trim. And so that is your block, and let's see what that ended up measuring. So that measures right at 5 inches. And I did trim part of the charm square only because it's got those pinked edges, and so that makes it a little bigger than it actually is. So we are going to make all of our blocks like this. And the next, so when you put these all together, look at this awesome pattern that it makes. So we have got our star shape that it makes with the denim that we started with, the charm pack. But then look at these diamonds that you end up making with these, and they go both ways. And I just love patterns that start out with just one block, and then when you put them all together, they make these great secondary patterns. And so I love the way this turned out. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just four stars across and 4 down, and that I just think turned out so cute. And so I'm going to put a couple different borders on here. I'm going to start with a red border first of all, and so that'll bring out the red that's in some of these plaids, and I think that's cute. And then with some of my leftover triangles, I have started to make something like this, and I'm going to use this for another border just alongside of the red. So it's going to look something like this, and I'm going to put that around the outside, and then I'll finish it off with a final border, and so we'll see how that looks. So this is a great way to use up some of that fabric, and it's just gonna end up looking great. So far I'm loving the way it's turned out. So here's the finished quilt top after I added the borders on. I added that half square triangle, not really a half square triangle, but I just sewed the triangles together up and down, and then added that on the other side of my 2-inch border, and then that one, and then I added a 3-inch border around the final edge. And I love the way this turned out. This is so scrappy, but then you've still got these patterns in here, the diamonds and things like that, and I love the way it turned out. This is number 2 in my series with the thrift store shirts. And believe me, I have so much fabric left over to make a 3rd and maybe even a 4th quilt from these. But I want you to note that the strips I used in this one are all 1.5 inches. And that's fine. In a quilt like this, you can use a variety of different width strips. You can use 2-inch strips, 1.5-inch strips, 1-inch strips. They don't have to be all the same at all by any means. You can mix them up, mix and match, do whatever you want. In fact, I made another quilt just like this. Instead of the denim, I used red charm pack, and I just used scrappy strips, all different widths. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right here. And I love the way this turned out. This is the second quilt I've made using this technique, and I just love them. I think they're so fun to make, and the result ends up great. So I hope that you give this a shot. This is a great way to use up those thrift store shirts or shirts from a loved one and turn it into a memory quilt. And so this is great. So please like and subscribe to this channel, and I will definitely be doing more like this. And just remember to always be creating. That's Suze from Revelation Quilts signing out.